All right, my friends, thanks for joining me again today. We are going to talk about something that is ever changing, and that is the polls. Finally, we got a poll that is probably more reflective of the truth. It is so hilarious how the liberal media is not very happy about this new ABC poll that just came out. But let's get right into it. I want to share it with you. I think you're going to find it extremely interesting. So let's listen to it.
Yeah, Martha, these numbers are simply staggering for the sitting president. 44% of people in this poll say they are not as well off as they were at the start of the Biden administration 2.5 years ago. Those are the worst numbers that we've seen in our ABC News Washington Post polling. It's a question we've been asking going back to the Reagan administration. And when you dive into the big questions around the economy, we know President Biden has been out there trying to make the case unemployment is low. He's been talking about how inflation has been easing, but people aren't buying it. You covered some of the reasons why: gas prices, food prices, grocery prices, and the like. Right now, on the big picture on the economy, 74% of the country, that's about 3/4 of Americans, who say the economy is either not so good or downright poor.
It was James Carville years ago, if you remember, under President Bill Clinton, that said something simply profound and will probably live in American politics for as long as the United States is around. And what he said so eloquently, but so directly and with such great wisdom, was it's the economy stupid. I'll say it again. It's the economy stupid. Generally speaking, that's all that matters when it comes to a presidential race. As I've talked about in my most recent video, this abortion issue, as shown in the last year's election, 2022, is kind of a outlier. Is kind of an exception, if you will. It has affected American politics directly. Generally speaking, though, it's the economy. I think what happened last year is you had people very polarized and very motivated, especially women, especially Democrats, extremely motivated. The Republicans did not have a good message or the right messaging when it comes to the abortion issue, and they got slaughtered. They should have done so much better. But I digress. Let's get right back into it.
And it's not just the state of the nation or the policies that are giving people pause on President Biden. It seems to be the man himself.
Yeah, Martha, let's talk about age, because we know for sure that the country certainly is. President Biden would be 82 years old on Inauguration Day 2025. That's how old he is. He's not getting any younger. And of course, perceptions around his ability to perform in the job are not getting any better. Right now, 3/4 of Americans, 74%, say that he is too old to effectively serve in a second term. That compares to about 50% who say the same around Donald Trump. And it's not just Republicans or independents who are skeptical over Joe Biden. This is a question we asked: should Biden be at the top of the ticket? 62% of Democrats and Democrat-leaning independents said they think that someone else should be the presidential nominee, although the party is deeply split on who that someone else should be. And Martha, maybe the most startling number in our poll is this: the hypothetical matchup, a rematch of Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. Our poll with the Washington Post pegging this at 51% for Donald.
Take a look at that. 51% to 42%. You got a 9, probably 10-point difference. This is probably a more accurate reflection. Personally, I think it's even higher than that in favor of former President Trump. We'll see, because obviously we all know that the polls generally underperform as far as showing how the former President Donald Trump is doing, and generally they exaggerate how the Democrats are doing, or in this case, Joe Biden is doing.
Trump over Joe Biden. That is a 9-point edge. Now, that's only a couple of points difference from our last poll in May, but it is significantly different than most recent polls. It is an outlier compared to other polls we've seen recently. Our partners at 538 put together an analysis for us.
Make sure you note just how much they really, really hate this poll. They call it an outlier. Some other videos we're going to watch here in a second, they're beating it bad because they are extremely upset and they do not want this poll to be reality, so they're going to go ahead and attack the people that make their own work product.
We find an average of recent polls having this more in the 1 or 2 point range, with Joe Biden typically having the edge. But whether you believe that or not, look, there's a good chance that there's people just trying to send a message in the polling right now, given the other frustration we've seen. We know in this poll there's some quirks, some oddities around the number of black voters and Hispanic voters, the younger voters.
Yeah, the reason for that is because it's very clear that there are black voters that are definitely looking towards President Trump. They know they were so much better under President Trump and his administration. They also sympathize, can relate with the president. The fact that he's been indicted so many times has really resonated with a lot of the minority community, specifically the black community, because they have been railroaded for so many years. Well, we all know how it works. They're definitely singled out. It's quite evident in the numbers, and now they feel like they can relate with the president.
Seem to be supporting Donald Trump. And get this, because it's pretty hard to believe, but we asked people whether Donald Trump should be constitutionally disqualified from running for office. And among people who said yes, 1 in 5, about 18%, say they'd vote for Trump anyway.
Wow.
So that might just be sending a message that's more anti-Biden than it is pro-Trump. But regardless, the weaknesses that we are seeing for Joe Biden and his approval rating across the board are very real. They are alarming to Democrats, even if no one thinks this is ultimately going to be a 9-point race.
Let's go ahead and take a look at another video that I have here for you.
Washington now, and a new ABC News Washington Post poll which signals trouble for President Biden. It comes as the rest of the GOP field gets ready for their second debate. We have team coverage starting with Chief White House Correspondent Mary Bruce. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, George. Well, officials here are downplaying these latest numbers, but they certainly are cause for concern for Democrats. Look, President Biden is making the economic recovery the cornerstone of his reelection campaign, but our latest ABC News Washington Post poll shows Americans overwhelmingly just aren't feeling it, that despite easing inflation and low unemployment, Americans really aren't buying into his positive Bidenomics message. Just 30% of Americans approve of his handling of the economy. In fact, 44% of people say they are not as well off now as they were when Biden took office. And on another hot button issue, immigration, the numbers show only 23% of Americans approve of the president's handling of that situation. All of this is leading to a dismal approval rating for the president, now 19 points under 1.
Whenever you see a disapproval rating in the 50s, in this particular poll, 56%, almost always the president that has those type of numbers is not reelected.
And when it comes to Biden himself, we know this. His age is a real political problem for him. Right now, 3/4 of Americans, 74%, say that he is too old to effectively serve a second term. And a majority of Democrats say someone else should actually be the nominee, though the party is deeply divided on who that someone else should be. And take a look at this when it comes to the head-to-head matchup with Donald Trump. Our poll is an outlier, and it does differ significantly from other recent polling. But our poll shows Trump with a 9-point lead.
They definitely do not appreciate this poll. It's an outlier. They're going to continue bash it.
Over President Biden, while 538's average polling still has Biden up by roughly 2 points. And get this, when we ask people if they think that Donald Trump should be constitutionally disqualified from serving another term, even those who said yes, that Trump shouldn't be allowed to run, 18% of them said that they would still vote for him. So, George, the bottom line here, this is just one poll. We are still a ways out from the election, but these numbers do show some real weaknesses for President Biden, George.
Mary Bruce, thanks.
You talk about trying to put a spin on it. They definitely do not want that poll to be reality. Let's take a quick look at what Fox News had to say about it. They had some interesting observations.
And ABC News panel reacting to Joe Biden's brutal new polling. Watch this.
These numbers are simply staggering for the sitting president. Those are the worst numbers that we've seen in our ABC News Washington Post polling. He's been talking about how inflation has been easing, but people aren't buying it.
It's not just the state of the nation or the policies that are giving people pause on President Biden. It seems to be the man himself.
Maybe the most startling number in our poll is this, the hypothetical matchup, a rematch of Donald Trump versus Joe Biden.
So again, this was an ABC News Washington Post poll. Yes, sir. So ABC, there's kind of work through being like, I can't believe it. This is shocking.
Yeah.
Washington Post said, I don't believe it. This is an outlier. Our poll's crap. Literally, basically said that. What do you make of these absolute panic responses?
It's hilarious, right? You're bashing your own product for putting out a number that you don't like. In this case, the Washington Post and ABC News did that. And is it so unbelievable to think that Donald Trump could be leading Joe Biden when you look at Joe Biden on the economy and 3 in 4 people think that it's bad? They think that crime in this country is out of control. They think the border is out of control. They think that education can be better. They think that foreign policy is not going in the right direction and the country in general. Is it really that unbelievable that Joe Biden is polling so poorly against Donald Trump, given his performance and given his record?
Our
Ashley,
voter
Todd.
panel didn't seem to think that earlier. Joe Conch, you got to leave it there. Thank you.
Interesting. Okay, well, there you have it. That pretty well puts everything in a perspective that I, for one, am very happy to see, and I'm sure you are too. Let's face it, folks, we cannot handle 4 more years of Joe Biden. He's destroying our fossil fuels. He's destroying our vehicle industry. This climate change stuff, I've had it enough already. He's destroyed and destroying our economy. We have no control over our borders. People are just flooding in. People are dying as a result of trying to get into our country. This is absolutely out of control. Don't even get me started about Afghanistan and all the military hardware and the very important bases that he's given away. Oh, I don't even want to get started on all this. The great news, the great takeaway today is even by the liberal media's own polling, good for President Trump. He's up at least 9% in the latest poll, and hopefully he will continue to rise in the polls. And of course, I'll keep you posted. I really do appreciate you joining me today. I'm coming, as always, from beautiful Zephyr Hills, Florida. I am JR Dukes.